Hey, it's Kyle Meredith, and welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With, an ongoing interview series presented by 91.9 WFPK, Independent Louisville, and Consequence of Sound. Today, I'm talking with one of my favorite artists of this decade, Courtney Barnett. She'll release her newest record, Tell Me How You Really Feel, on May 18th. We got to talk about a lot with this one. The bigger issues that she's writing about, where she's been known for those really personal, intricate moments. We also talk about her playing in her wife Jen Cloher's band and how that helped with taking the spotlight off of her. And have the two of them ever considered doing an album together? That all comes up, as well as some politics, hopefulness. That's a word that she came up with. It sort of sums everything up. And having the Breeders on this record, as well as her gigantic t-shirt collection. Courtney Barnett. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Courtney. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm, living my best life listening to the songs from your new record, so how could I be any better?
Sounds good.
Tell me how you really feel. You became famous for sort of the personal observations about very specific moments in life, but is it fair to say that this record is something bigger?
Maybe. I mean, it still feels like very observational, kind of internal observations, maybe, a bit more so than the external and, surroundings.
I mean, I look at a song, well, like the first lead single with Nameless, Faceless. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious, with all the conversations that are happening out there. But was there one incident that kind of spurred this one, that led you to that direction?
No, that one, I think it's just an ongoing incident and ongoing news and ongoing kind of death and, feeling unsafe. And I think it's just a conversation that I'm constantly having with friends and never quite understanding where the hatred and the violence comes from.
I mean, you take something like that, and with everything that is happening, the incidents and the conversations and the movements. I think I'd be surprised if you were an artist or any artist who weren't figuring out how to filter this, that weren't being at least reflective. Was it a challenge for you then, with all this going out, to figure out how to put that into some kind of lyrical poetry, without being obvious about it, I guess?
I think I struggle with that sometimes because it's hard to kind of not sound too, didactic and preachy about things. And because, I'm just a songwriter, I don't know everything. All I can really express is my thoughts and feelings and, reflections of the world around me. So, and then it's hard, I think, that sometimes I try to kind of, find the positive in things, or sometimes kind of err on sarcasm or kind of dark humor, and sometimes that doesn't serve the topic because it might undermine it, and it's a strange balance, but I guess it's just a ongoing kind of learning curve.
But isn't it interesting then, when you become a successful artist, when you get a fan base, that they do look to you for the answers in some way, just because you have this pedestal, with a connection through music, suddenly the eyes are looking towards you to say, okay, so what do we do?
Yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know. I think I'm so caught up in my own head, I don't realize that stuff sometimes.
I think that's a nice transition over to the it's sort of a transition over to the newest single, which I saw the video of, which of course, sort of shoots you out to space. And is the meta? Should I be drawing the line for the metaphor? As the spotlight gets on you, that this is some desire to escape a little bit.
So funny that everyone finds the spotlight in the same angle, but it's smaller than that, I think, or bigger than that even. It's tricky because there's so many kind of angles in that song of friendships and relationship and connections with people and with myself, and I think it's more just that general frustration and sadness and just wanting to get away from everything. If you take the angle of fame and whatever out of it, it's more just the world.
You'll probably have to excuse a lot of us for looking at that, because there was a little bit of a story with other interviews going into this about a bit of writer's block and facing the mountain that was before you, what the last record, certainly accomplished. And then, you're out there and you're...
I know, we can't help the stories that come. We love stories.
I am going to continue down that path just a little bit and everything because, you have spent the last little while playing in Jen's band, which her record, one of my favorites of last year too. And that was sort of a way to, I don't know if you meant it in this way at all, if it just happened like that, but it's sort of a way to kind of get out there and keep playing, but not have to be the front person. Like, is that weight taken off of you like that?
Yeah, well, I guess it's definitely a different, totally different energy, which is good and refreshing, I think. But I mean, it wasn't so, not as selfish as that sounds. It was more just, I played in Jen's band around the same time I released when was it? Maybe my second EP, so I've been playing with her for a while, and I think it's, just kind of finding that balance of, things really took off for me, and I was away for a long time, and Jen was writing her album, and so, it was more just kind of finding the time to make that happen, because I love playing in her band so much. But I mean, I definitely don't have to sing or, lose my breath singing.
Well, from a fan's point of view, it looks so interesting. The two of you being such accomplished songwriters, writing albums that on some level feature messages about each other, and Jen talked a lot about that, what her record is about. I had her on the show, and that was a big narrative point to hers. And I don't know if any of this record, does it have that? Does it kind of answer any of that from your side?
Sure, it does in some ways. I think, I think that I was so caught up in my own world while I was writing this that, I mean, there's definitely bits that kind of, I mean, they're not like call and response, but there's definitely stuff that references Jen, but I mean, it's not like negative or whatever, but it's just, I think she's, the most important part of my life, so there's everything kind of revolves around her in some way, but maybe not directly, and it's strange. It's a strange process because Jen inspires me so much when I'm writing, and really picks me up off the ground when I'm really struggling. So I think a lot of her gets ingrained in there, even if it's not too obvious.
After you had done a record with Kurt Vile and She Was Open Up, I mean, the obvious question became, but when was the two of you doing record together?
Well, we've been working on songs together, but I don't know.
Down the road.
We've got our whole lives to do that.
At one part, that she and I did talk about was everything that was going on with the Australian marriage thing, and I think they were taking the poll around that time. And excuse me, I haven't kept up, but what's been? Oh yeah. Is there any news with that? Any positive movement?
Yeah. So in November, maybe the poll was counted or whatever, and it was positive for 65% or something. But because it was just a poll and not a binding vote, it didn't really mean anything. But luckily, the government decided to honour the people's choice, and they passed the law in, I don't know, December or January. It was a bit bittersweet because it was obviously a positive outcome, but gone about in a very ridiculous and offensive and expensive way. So it was whatever. It's over now, but I'm glad the outcome, but it was a pretty stupid process.
Well, congratulations on the positive side of that outcome.
Yeah.
And I can go back and watch because somehow we keep having these parallels between the United States and Australia. And sometimes they're lined up in the same way about the big issues, and sometimes, we talk about gun control a lot right now, and it almost seems like every single time Australia is sort of referenced in that, this is what it could be or whatever. As an outsider, how caught up in the American politics do you get as someone who lives, very far away but spends a lot of time here?
Yeah, I definitely, the last couple of years, I mean, I think you can't not be, involved or I think it's really strange that when I see comments when not non-Americans comment on, you know, things, and people are like, well, you're not even from here, so you've got no right to talk about it. But I think they do. Everyone does. I mean, because a lot of that stuff affects everyone, and no one wants to see or feel or just see that suffering. Yeah. So like I remember friends, you know, when everyone was in an uproar about the, you know, your latest election, and they were like, well, what is it? It doesn't affect us. He's not our president, but it does affect everyone because he ruins people's lives. People with any sort of heart or emotion can feel that. So I think it affects everyone.
Yeah, well, don't listen to those people who say you don't deserve an opinion, because I assure you they all have an opinion about anything that's happening within a square mile of whatever you're doing. They have an opinion, and they'll use it somewhere online. There's a word on this record, I think it's the a title to the hopefulness, which, you know, I keep toying around and flipping around in my head, because I think I only read a little bit on it where it's actually sort of in a negative light, but there's a lot of positivity out of it. That's what I'm getting. And I don't know, is that anywhere near right? Because that's what I'm hoping, you know, is the outcome of all of this.
Yeah, I think I think that word kind of made itself up in a kind of struggle of feeling hopeless, but wanting to be hopeful, and you know, that real like push and pull between the two. Like, you know, I think the natural kind of reaction of hopelessness is just there, and quite easy to kind of give into. I think it's harder in a way to be hopeful and to be positive, and to actually engage in kind of positive, anything, just any kind of fight or change, or it's a whole different kind of level of energy, and the kind of the feel to just give in to how terrible everything is so much easier. And then you can be like, well, I told you it was terrible, so here we are, just living in this terrible world. But I don't know. I have faith that there's enough good people. If all the good people did good things, then they would overshadow the bad people, maybe.
I believe you, because I also want to believe you, because I need to believe that.
Exactly.
You know, it's
exactly. I mean, I don't know if I 100% believe that, but I'm trying to believe that. I think that's the key.
Yeah. Well, here's something positive, hugely positive. On a very selfish note, I think you have the Breeders on your record, and that's gotta be mind-blowingly awesome for you.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I met Kim a couple of years ago. We did a podcast together, and Talk House podcast, and we became friends and stayed in touch. And when I was in Ohio once, I called her up, and they were in the studio, and we went in, and they needed some vocals on a song, so we jumped in a room and sung. And then I guess like a year later, I was in the studio making my album, and I think I was probably corresponding with Kim, and she said, I owe you some vocals. So I sent the song over, and Kim and Kelley sang some stuff on 2 songs. Teenage
dreams really do come true.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I discovered the Breeders until like my early 20s. My friend Fee, she has a radio show in Melbourne. She loves them, and she was always talking about them. And I think I kind of went home one day, and I was probably like, oh yeah, I love the Breeders, faking it. And then I went home and listened to them, and was like, oh yeah, I really do love the Breeders. So yeah, it's a bit of a late discovery for me, but I think it came at, I think music always comes to you when it's supposed to, right, and you need it somehow.
That's a perfect sentiment right there. I'll wrap up by asking you about your T-shirt collection, because you have to. How many band T-shirts do you have? Do you think that you have?
You should ask Jen about my T-shirt collection.
Oh yeah? What's she gonna say?
There's too many. She thinks there's too many. She's always trying to get me to throw some out. Yeah, I guess I have a lot. I can't help it. I guess I've always gone to so many shows, and I buy the record and buy the T-shirt, and sometimes I don't even want the T-shirt, but it's like I just like that support. Bands need the merch bought so they can do their next thing.
Well, I appreciate the bands that you've turned me on to.
It's nice. Oh, good.
With your T-shirt collection and with everything you're doing over at Milk, I think it's really amazing what you're doing out there, and the music and this record. I love this record so much. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation today, and we'll see you in Louisville. You're going to be here at Forecastle this summer, so I can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait. See you then.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks to Courtney Barnett for giving the call today. Her new record, Tell Me How You Really Feel, comes out May 18th. Hey, don't forget to head over to Consequence of Sound's YouTube page and subscribe to keep up with all of your favorite artists and interviews. And head over to WFPK.org for some good radio station fun. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.